Okay, working on page 11. You're going to need your vocab word fracture with this picture glued on. And also this reading passage cut out. So go ahead and pause the video, get those ready, and then get back here when you've got them ready to go. Okay, so fracture refers to rough or irregular, so not normal, surfaces along which the mineral breaks randomly. So this is when a mineral breaks randomly. It doesn't look like a pattern or something like that. So like this one would maybe be a little bit more of a fracture, but that's still pretty much a cleavage. If I have an example of fracture would be just when it looks like rough, uneven, there's no specific thing. So this would be like a fracture. This is pyrite. Or like this, very rough and uneven. Okay. So we're just going to list the 4 types of fracture. So these are all examples, and it's going to cover 1 and 2. So the first one is conchoidal, and that's when it's curved. So when they have kind of rounded edges. Uneven, that's when it's rough. Hacky, so when it's sharp. And splintery, so when it's pointy. So these are all probably conchoidal or uneven. Might have a little bit of hacky in there as well, but not too bad. So we're going to go ahead and get that glued in all the way up at the top. Make sure that you tell me how this picture of fracture that I have where those minerals are all broken in an irregular manner describes the word fracture. Woo, bless me. And then for our reading passage, so get that finished, get that glued in. And for our reading passage, as always, we're going to need a yellow highlighter to highlight power words and key terms, and something green. You know, I like to underline key phrases and definitions. Okay, so make sure that when you find something interesting, you're putting an exclamation mark. Yeah, well, interesting. And when you don't know, a question mark. You have something important, a star or an asterisk. Okay. The Mohs scale and fracture types. So we're talking about today. 2 of the most common ways in which to identify and classify a mineral are by using the Mohs scale and labeling minerals by their fracture type. The Mohs scale measures the hardness level of a mineral on a scale from 1 to 10. Let's just highlight that that's the way the Mohs scale measures the hardness level of a mineral on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being the hardest. If a mineral is harder, it is more difficult to scratch. Similarly, minerals can be identified by their fracture type and cleavage. So fracture type and cleavage. So fracture was our word today. Cleavage is a little different. So fracture is a crack or split in the rock or mineral, and cleavage is the plane where the rock tends to split. So cleavage means like more of an even break. So the Mohs scale ranges from 1 to 10. In order to test the hardness of a mineral, so hardness is what we're testing, or its ability to be scratched. Resistance to scratching. Okay. Other minerals are used to scratch against it. Glass is the most commonly used mineral as it has a hardness level of 5.5, so it's kind of right there in the middle. There are many examples of different minerals at different hardness levels. Remember back on page, I think that's 8, where we have sort of our chart of ones that are pretty common. Different minerals, different hardness levels. For example, talc is a level 1. It's extremely soft and used in baby powder. Just above it at a level 2 is gypsum, which can be scratched just using a fingernail. So you can take your fingernail and scratch it. On the Mohs scale at a level 3 is calcite, which can be scratched with a copper coin and is still relatively soft. So this one's calcite, so I can scratch it with a penny. So if you can see that, I have calcite on the edge of my penny now. See, there's white there. Scratched it. Okay, fluorite is at a hardness level of 4 and can be scratched with something tougher like steel. At 5 is apatite, which is scratched by a steel knife. Just above that is a 6 is orthoclase, which can be scratched with a steel file. So these are all different levels of hardness of steel. So a glass plate can be scratched by quartz, which is a 7. Topaz is an 8, but requires porcelain to be scratched. And corundum is a level 9, and it can be scratched by topaz. Oh, no, it can scratch topaz. It can't be scratched by topaz. And the hardest mineral is diamond, which is level 10, and it cannot be scratched by, this is not wrong, and cannot be scratched. So you have to have the next harder thing to scratch it. So similarly to that, there are 5 different types of fractures. And one of them is a big category, so we use it on its own. An uneven fracture has a rough surface and an irregular appearance. So it's uneven fracture, rough surface and an irregular appearance. A splintery fracture typically creates sharp, elongated points called splinters, like ones that you've gotten from wood. A hacky fracture tends to be uneven, sharp, and jagged in nature. Earthly, we could say, are textures similar to freshly broken soil. So we didn't include that one because I don't like that one. And last, there's conchoidal fractures that create smooth curves in a surface of the mineral to create a bowl, like they're softer and they're rounded. So cleavage planes are evident once these minerals are broken on the weak points of bonding. So this is like when it breaks on planes, when it breaks flat. So once you've got all those notes done, we're going to flip to the back, answer the questions. If you don't have the questions in the back because you got these in the mail, you just need to answer the questions on the back or on the paper underneath. So we're going to fold this in half, hamburger style. And let's look at our questions. Okay. Describe the Mohs scale and how hardness of minerals are determined. So this is going to be mostly from paragraph 2. So we got paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Mohs scale. So explain what the Mohs scale is. That's part 1. And make sure you either in your explanation explain how the hardness of minerals is determined, or you can start a new sentence that says the hardness of minerals is determined by. Question 2. What are the 5 different types of fractures? Oh, so many types of fractures used in identifying minerals. So it's going to be down here in paragraph 4. So here, you don't need to have full sentences. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go back in here and look for that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types. What are cleavage planes? So that's also from paragraph 4. So cleavage planes are, at least says it right there. Make sure you add in that. So cleavage planes are, finish that. So make sure that when you take your pictures, you get a picture of the back of this and the whole front. Okay? So I could grade your whole paper. And I do check to see if you finished the back. Like if you turn in the back, I'm going to send you a message back that says you didn't answer any of the questions. Or I'll just give you, a 5 out of 10. So you're going to get this glued in underneath here. And you'll be good to go on page 11. So again, if you don't have those questions on the front, or like actually printed on your paper, just make sure you get them written in under here, or also just on the back.